smoke jumper.
Because now the weather is nice, there's no wind, they can do it now.
They can do it and they can slap it.
Wildfire. A powerful and natural force of nature that has been burning long before we began to inhabit the lands. In its essence, it is like a wild burning beast that can destroy everything in its path. It can burn across whole mountain ranges, raze forests to the ground, lay siege to towns, and burn for months on end. Yet wildfire has a crucial role in our ecosystem. It gives birth to new life.
These following things. I'm a push-up set up 2.4. La 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 la.
To be a professional hotshot firefighter, it means a lot, and there is a lot of challenges.
A specialised crew is a group of wildland firefighters who have a higher skill set than most of the contract crews and some of the other sort of crews that we see out there, the different organisations. The specialised guys will come and you'll have chainsaw operators, guys with brush cutting skills, guys who've also got a lot of experience. So they've seen fire behaviour, they understand it. So they're able to go out and as a small team make very important tactical decisions that can affect an overall strategy.
When we started the Rapid Attack program and the province got involved and really took control of and developed a provincial program, the one thing that we agreed and that we put as a focus was we wanted to improve every year. So bringing in more aircraft, bringing in fixed wing aircraft, the incident command system. So every year we were bringing a different component in to improve the system on the previous year. And one of the focuses recently was to look at bringing in specialized ground teams. A specialized ground team for us is a team that you can take in by aircraft, by helicopter, you can drop them in a position, they can work at high altitude. There's a lot of work that they could do that your normal firefighters would not be able. They can access areas that are not that easily accessible. Clearly more experienced firefighters would be able to provide more relevant information to the incident commanders, and also they would be able to carry out plans, develop plans, and make sure that the operation goes in the right direction.
My team work very well together. It's like fingers on the hand. Each and everyone knows what to do.
It's about having the knowledge and the intelligence to go out there and change the tactics on the ground depending on the fire behavior, the weather, what's happening, what could be happening in the future, how to guide that fire. So a specialized crew's training is all about taking that knowledge and applying it out in the field.
To be a firefighter, you must be scared because you're going to face an enemy when you are fighting fire. At the very same time, you must have a strategy. You have to calm down in order to win your enemy.
Betty's Bay, South Africa. A flare shot into the mountains in the early hours of New Year's Day ignited a devastating blaze that would burn for nearly 2 weeks. The fire, fanned by strong winds, rushed towards the neighbouring town of Pringle Bay, resulting in a large deployment of ground and aerial resources. The Western Cape Provincial Disaster Management Centre immediately activated their hotshot crews to climb the mountains and tackle the blaze head-on.
Ibra, come, quick. We are going in on the right flank. We're going to be trooped in with the helicopters coming into land now. They're going to drop us off behind the fire, and then our objective is to work our way down. The VWS crew is going to work its way up, so we're going to be going up on this flank at the back of the fire, and then we're coming back. Okay.
After successful operations to protect property, the 10-day battle in the mountains began.
There are two crews, or two separate crews working on this whole division. The NCC crew is going to be walking up to a location called Platberg. We're going to be working as far as we can following this fire line up this way, and then behind us, you can see behind us the volunteer, the VWS, they're working behind us, working the opposite direction, following their fire line up that way behind us. And basically the idea is to stop the fire from burning into this young vegetation.
Wildland firefighters spend most of their time up in the mountains chasing fire lines. This is an isolated and extreme environment where conditions can go from good to bad within seconds. The combination of steep terrain and mixed fuels can lead to aggressive fire behavior, and it is very important to keep heightened awareness.
Our goal is to fight fire together as a team. We went in together, we went out together.
You have to look up, down and around to basically ensure that you know what's going on, so you have situational awareness of what is happening around you at all times, because it's quite a fluid environment.
We were on the fire line and we're taking a break. Then we sit down. In a few seconds, wind change, wind picks up.
They can change from being good to bad and very, very quickly. Quite hot.
Yeah, it's too much. When they're giving away, you can just
Sometimes it's quite disappointing, especially if you've put a lot of guts into putting in a nice long line, and then the wind suddenly shifts and then it just burns everything all the work that you just put in for the last 5-6 hours. Yeah, it can be quite disappointing.
You can see the flame, you're just chasing the flame. You just want to get to that flame. And then we chase that fire until in the morning.
It was painful because I know that I'm a firefighter. If I was there, this wouldn't happen.
Cape Town Fire and Rescue Services are evacuating permanent residents between Gordons Bay and Hunklip due to a vegetation fire.
Residents of Pringle Bay were evacuated early on Thursday morning when the fire jumped the R44 into the coastal town.
As a cold front approached with prefrontal winds of up to 100 kilometers per hour, the town of Betty's Bay fell under siege by one of nature's most powerful forces.
Get in. Get in. Are you alright?
Our car's just burnt out.
Okay. There's nothing we can do really. You guys alright?
Yeah. Sorry, we didn't know what else to do.
No, you did the best thing. Hello, puppers.
Yeah.
Hello.
Sam, 2 cats.
Hello.
You couldn't grab my suitcase. It's still in state. Yeah. I've got cats. Sit.
Raining.
Every year in the Western Cape province of South Africa, man and fire meet head to head, all too often dancing the dance between life and death. The increasing frequency and intensity of wildfires we are experiencing has led to major social, economic and environmental loss. Large number of properties, swathes of agricultural land and species of flora in both human and animal life are impacted to greater and greater degrees. As man has chosen to live amongst the very fuel load that wildfire thrives on, we find ourselves at the center of this ever-increasing problem. There are 3 major contributing factors to the wildfire problem in the Western Cape of South Africa. Climate change is driving the province into extreme weather conditions. In 2018, we experienced the worst drought in over a century. As with the global trend, our temperatures are increasing each decade, and wildfire season is becoming longer and longer. Urban sprawl has led to a large increase in the population living on the wildland-urban interface. As nearly 90% of wildfires are ignited by man in the metropolitan areas, we are seeing more frequent and destructive fires occurring closer to heavily populated areas. A recent analysis of ignitions on Table Mountain National Park in Cape Town indicates the drastic change over the past few years, with 128 ignitions in a single season in 2015. The aesthetic appeal for many to live in and amongst the tree-covered landscape has catalyzed the risk for both fires starting and spreading. We also seem to be losing the war against alien invasive plant species. Many of these species are highly aggressive and grow back more swiftly than our indigenous vegetation after wildfires. Growing in dense groups and being more woody means that they burn for longer and at much higher temperatures, destroying the seed bank of indigenous species. The impacts of the above factors are often underestimated, as losses to agriculture, property, and environmental ecosystems are poorly reported. There is a misconception that because we don't have large-scale fires as frequently as the United States, that we don't incur huge losses. The largest misconception we have is on the dangers of wildfires. The environment that you work in as a wildland firefighter is extremely dangerous. It's so many different factors that are involved. We have from the obvious stuff like the flame, and obviously working through a landscape that you might not know. If you're working at night time, you may not know the area and you could easily fall down a cliff or there's loose rocks around that come down the mountainside. I've personally been on a fire before where I was further down the slope and I didn't hear the people shouting above me because of the fire noise, and a massive anthill, probably the size of half my body, came past my head, probably a few inches from my head. I just felt the wind burst past. If that had hit me, I would have been knocked off down the mountain. So it's a very dangerous environment. Those things can happen quite quickly. You work as a team and you try and have safety first, always. The other things that you're coming across, not so obvious, is one is the heat. The heat has a terrible effect on the human body. It can almost cause the blood to coagulate or clot in certain ways, and this can lead to heart attacks. The other thing is smoke. Smoke is a terribly dangerous part of the environment that we can't really do anything about. We can't carry breathing apparatus like the structural firefighters. So we have to try and regulate the way we move in and out of the smoke and fight the fire. Other things you see out there are ember storms, and this is often how a fire spreads through a landscape. It's not a wave of fire moving through a landscape, like people imagine it. It's a lot of burning embers, and these are twigs, leaves, bits of bark that get burnt, pine cones, and get thrown in front of the fire. And those land in dry vegetation, or they ignite, and those as those ignite, they draw the fire in towards them, and again, the fire spreads through the landscape, very much in a kind of spotting fashion in front of the fire. These are what's the main threat to homes, actually. The embers flying in, coming in, driven by the wind onto the homes. Fire whirls, that's when the wind combining with the topography starts creating an air movement that starts circulating, and that creates a sort of mini fire whirl, very much like a dust devil that people are probably more used to seeing. It's basically a dust devil made of fire, and this can move in any direction. It's a very dangerous phenomenon. And ash pits are something to be very careful about. An ash pit looks like an area of sort of just white-hot ash. Often those can be several meters deep. It's normally the burnt-out remains of trees or sort of bush roots. And again, if you step into that, it's just powdery, but it's retaining a huge amount of heat. If you fall into that, you're going to be burnt easily up to your waist. So it's a very dangerous environment.
Fire's been pretty tough to contain. The wind is just pushing it in all directions. There's a lack of anchor points. There's way too much fuel on this farm. We've been basically tasked to stay in a safety zone for the last hour or so, just because it was too dangerous to attack the fire from anywhere. There wasn't any safe place to get to the fire. So the fire spots over the road into the vineyard. And it's now burnt into, you'll see a dense stand of alien vegetation. So, yeah, there's not much that we can do in there. It's too dangerous.
John?
We're not going in there.
Okay. So, guys are unhappy with this section.
I agree. That's
we're gonna spot there.
Roll spot there.
All of us inside here. We're gonna dig.
Okay, so we'll stay here. Yeah. Okay. We can't stay in the middle.
No, yeah.
Okay, then spot fire, yes, then we go there. But for now, as you see, it's clear around us. So everybody happy? Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah.
They're trying to stop it from burning down into the vineyards. Half of the vineyards are already burnt out.
That way, this flame is moving now to our left.
Yes. So they're going to do a burnout of this area here now.
The car behind me is one of the vehicles that was caught when the crews got trapped by fire and had to run for their safety zone. The fire had burnt upslope from below us, up past us, and the northwester wind picked up some of the burning material that was burning higher upslope, spotted down into the vegetation area behind us here. That very quickly ignited and ran upslope. Obviously it was against the wind, but it would be sheltered because of the angle of the slope. So that ran up extremely quickly, forcing the crews to run for safety, and unfortunately one of the crew members didn't make it out. The biggest question is, how do wildfires start? The Fynbos biome in the Western Cape is a fire-adapted ecology and needs fire for reproduction and the eradication of disease. So exactly how many of these fires are started naturally or by man, and why?
Wildfires are caused by generally two categories, one being natural, which will include lightning, rolling rocks on dry days, and very occasionally spontaneous combustion. The second category is man-related causes, and these include discarded cigarette butts, children playing with matches, electrical cables, fireworks, and then from time to time campfires that are left abandoned or get out of control. When one looks at the statistics for the causes of fires, one's got to approach it with caution. For example, in the Cape Town area, we find that a large number of fires around the City Bowl area are actually caused by homeless people who abandon their cooking fires. But once you start to move up towards the coast, perhaps about 500 kilometers to the east of Cape Town, in the rugged mountainous areas of the Garden Route, one finds that they have a high number of lightning strike fires. When the general public see a fire, they usually assume that it has been set intentionally or there's been arson involved. This is the importance of doing fire investigations to determine exactly what the cause of the fire is. And there are a high number of cases where the cause of the fire was purely accidental, or possibly even through negligence. So for example, a camping fire that is left unattended was not set with the intention of setting the mountain on fire, but was purely caused the fire through negligence. Likewise, people that are using machinery, cutting and grinding, and causing sparks to land in the surrounding vegetation that cause a fire, such fire was not started with intent. So one's going to be quite careful about assuming that all fires are set with intent or maliciously set. And bearing also in mind that on hot, dry, windy days, if we have 20 small ignitions, there's a good chance that all 20 of those are going to cause a fire, as opposed to a cooler day, where we have the same number of ignitions, but only 2 or 3 of them start fires because those sparks landed in suitable material.
Come here! Watch out here! Come here! Watch out here! Watch out!
We received a call at about 3 o'clock. We came down here and the wind was blowing from our back this way, in which the way the fire was going. So based on that, we knew the fire had started somewhere on the upwind side of where the burn scar is. So if we look at the area here, we'll see that we've got what we call a left flank and then the right flank, and then this is the heel, the back end of the fire. We know the fire started somewhere in this area over here. So if we look at how this fire is burnt over here, we can see this fire was moving in from the sides over here. This fire moved towards this little footpath over here and it jumped across the footpath. So looking at this area, we know this fire started somewhere in this area. We need to find where the fire started first before we can find out how the fire started. So if we look at the burn patterns in this area and we look at the bushes, the way the bushes have burnt, you can see that the fire was moving through over here. You can see also there's white ash on this side, and also all these leaves are facing in that direction. We call it freezing. So if we keep working our way back here and looking at the shape of the fire, it all sort of the back end of the fire comes from somewhere over there. So looking at the way this fire is burnt, looking at this bush over here, you can see how this fire has come through from this side. So again, this fire started somewhere in this area over here. And once we come up to here, we start seeing this type of evidence. These are limpets that have been shucked. If we look further around the area, further across over here, if we can take you over here, you're going to see huge mounds of these shucked shellfish. And then we found over there, we found an orange bag that it also was very, very fresh. And we believe that that is the bag that is used to put the shucked limpets into for when they do crayfish poaching. So we are convinced that this fire is related to crayfish poaching activities.
We didn't have an integrated approach to wildfires. That was really, I think, the main challenge that I saw when I got here. Everybody was doing a good job, but I don't think the integration was really what it could have been. So we really sat with a situation that we needed to draw everybody together to make sure that we were all on the same page as far as things like incident command was concerned, as far as utilization of aerial resources, and also as far as awareness programs, because you were seeing a lot of different awareness programs all aimed at trying to reach the same objective. So I think that was our biggest challenge from a organizational perspective. And then I just think from a the wildfire perspective itself, is we started seeing more of a urban fringe kind of challenge as far as people moving closer to the wildland-urban interface. And we started seeing more incidents happening there. I think one of the most important things is that the provincial government and a lot of the municipalities have actually seen the importance of having effective fire services, of having an effective wildfire program. The Western Cape government has seen that the costs of wildfires of merely just the responding side is massive, and we really have to put a lot more focus into prevention. The alien invasive problem is huge, and we're looking at a way of integrating a lot of that work. And then we also are making municipalities a lot more responsible for their areas to ensure that they are working together with their FPAs, that they are preparing for a fire season, and that it no longer is just a response activity. The whole impact of climate change in South Africa, in the Western Cape, has become a large focus of the provincial government. Last year, for the very first time, that any provincial government that I know of, or even the national government, actually had hearings on climate change with all the departments, looking at what is it that we need to do going forward. So I think synergy in wildfire management is probably, I would say, almost one of the most important areas. And the reason that I say that is we're all limited in our resources. None of us have the amount of resources required to deal with these kind of fires. So we are forever requesting assistance from various agencies to come and assist on one specific incident. So from a response perspective, the fact that we have the same incident command system, the fact that we use the same equipment, that we all understand the way that we operate, the fact that there's a central coordination, all those things together would mean that if we are getting resources to come and assist from outside of a specific jurisdiction, be it national parks, be it Cape Nature, be it other fire services, they all come into one system. So they all understand the system. And I think for me, that's the most important. I can't recall a major fire in the last, I would say, probably 3 years that was handled by just one agency.
The Western Cape has progressed tremendously over the past century, incorporating new technologies and introducing an advanced integrated fire management system. Fire suppression has always been our biggest expenditure, and it is a crucial aspect of fighting wildfires. However, we need to shift towards an attitude of integrated fire management, rather than fighting fire or suppression of fire. One that manages and guides a wildfire around communities and assets, rather than always having to stop it. This is achievable through proactive and sustainable prevention and awareness programs. Focusing on these will allow us to mitigate the greater fire risks, resulting in less loss of ecologically sensitive environments and lives and property when a wildfire does occur. We are not going to stop wildfires, but we can reduce their risks and manage them.